LiteRider beep code 5, brake fault. You put the key into the key switch and turn it to the on position. The control panel will beep 5 times, pause, and beep 5 times until you remove the key from the key switch. This beep code occurs because the park brake release switch is active or the park brake may be faulty. Turn the key to the off position. Disengage, then re-engage the freewheel lever. Turn the key back to the on position. If this does not clear the code, then use the following procedure. Tools needed: slotted screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, 19mm socket, multimeter. Lift up the seat release lever and remove the seat. Remove the battery pack. Remove the floor basket. Use a Phillips screwdriver to remove the rear floor mat. Set your multimeter to measure resistance, at least 100 ohms. Measure resistance across pin 1 and pin 2 on connector 8B. The resistance should be 80 ohms or less, but not shorted. If the resistance is 80 ohms or less, then replace the controller. See the controller replacement video. Unplug the motor harness from the rear intermediate motor harness. Measure continuity across pin 4 on the rear intermediate motor harness and pin 2 on the front intermediate motor harness. The measurements should be 10 ohms or less. Measure continuity across pin 3 on the rear intermediate motor harness and pin 1 on the front intermediate motor harness. The measurements should be 10 ohms or less. If there is no open, then fast forward to time code 311. If there is an open, go to the next step. Inspect the connection between the front intermediate motor harness and the rear intermediate motor harness. Make sure they are clean and free of rust. If they are discolored or corroded, then replace as necessary. Take a quarter and slide it into contacts 1 and 3 on the front intermediate motor harness. If any of the contacts do not hold the quarter firmly, then replace the front intermediate motor harness. Check continuity between pin 4 and contact 4 on the rear intermediate motor harness. The measurements should be 10 ohms or less. Check continuity between pin 3 and contact 2 on the rear intermediate motor harness. The measurements should be 10 ohms or less. If any of these wires are open, then replace the rear intermediate motor harness. Check continuity between contact 4 and pin 2 on the front intermediate motor harness. The measurements should be 10 ohms or less. Check continuity between contact 2 and pin 1 on the front intermediate motor harness. The measurements should be 10 ohms or less. If any of the wires are open, then replace the front intermediate motor harness. Unplug the brake from the motor harness. Measure resistance on the 2-pin brake connector. The resistance should be 80 ohms or less, but not shorted. If it is 80 ohms or less, but not shorted, then replace the drivetrain. If it is shorted or open, then replace the brake. See the brake replacement video.